Welcome to the first episode of the work experience. I'm Yui. I'm from Agent of Change, and today I'm joined by
Ligia.
Joost.
And Thirza.
And today we are here together at House of Change to start designing work experience. Maybe you guys can give a short introduction of yourselves.
Well, I'm Ligia. I'm almost at the end of the talent development and creativity master, and I'm an international. I come from Brazil, and right after my graduation, I really would like to find a job to stay here. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm Joost. I'm doing the same master track. After this master, I need to find a job, and I have like this specific idea about going into the esports scene. And the road to it is not very clear. I'm just hoping to find a way to get there, but I have my hopes up.
Yeah, good.
And I'm Thirza, and I'm doing the same masters as well. And at some point, I noticed that I was thinking a lot about my future, and then there were a lot of questions, and I found out that other people had this as well. So yeah, that's why I joined this little community, and I hope that we can all help each other and find our dream jobs together. That would be great.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, right? We try to help also the other listeners to get some ideas how we design a work experience here. And maybe we can start with design questions. So the question that you have, or the goal that you have, or the path that you are working towards. Maybe Joost, you can start.
So my main design question would be, hey, how do I get to this scene that I want to get into? So my interest is in esports, electronic sports. It's basically competitive video games. And I was thinking, hey, how cool would it be if I could go into the coaching in there, or be a sports psychologist in that scene? It's just the issue I am encountering. It's a very niche scene. It's like, how do you get in there? From what I heard, it's all about lobbying and trying to like know people in there and weasel your way in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the road is unclear. How do I get in there? That's my main question. Yeah.
Now, how do you get to the esports scene as a coach? Would be like your question right now. Okay, maybe we can all help you, and we can discuss. Okay, my first question for you then would be like, why do you specifically want to go into the esports scene?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was, it's an idea that came to me, and I kind of stuck with it. I'm really into esports, like watching it, the games I play, like in my free time. Yeah, I'm just quite involved in it. I like it. I like sports, with sports, so I have a passion for that. And then I found a way, like through doing this master's, of sort of combining that passion for sports and for esports with an actual job and coaching. Coaching is also something that I found to be, something I really like doing, able to help people. I just found this interest, and I'm just trying to stick with it and finding something to do, after I complete this master's.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what are your main struggles right now?
There's not really, I guess if you want to work in a supermarket, right, you can go in there and be like, hey, can I get a job, right? And then they tell you either yes or no, and it's very simple. So the road is clear. So yeah, the road to this is not very clear. There's not really, I've looked around for like jobs in it. I've looked on the websites of organizations that I know, and all of them, but the ones I did see for like related to coaching is like, hey, you need like 4 years of experience minimum. And I'm like, well, how do I get experience if you want me to have experience before I get the thing that gives me experience, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Very relatable.
yeah, so I'm just trying to just a bit struggling with finding the first steps into the scene, because I imagine once you have the experience, right, you have like something you can tell people or future employers like, hey, this is what I've done before. I can do this. I've shown that I can do this. And without that, or without having that, like, how do you get into the scene?
But I was just curious. Are you trying to do some research to understand what kind of spots you can fit in, or are you going to design your own spot?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I think for now, I'm looking for the spots they have. I'm not trying to design my own spot as much, because I think when I was watching the esports, I came up with the idea of like esports psychology. I think it's before people didn't really have sports psychologists in esports, and I think like 4 years ago it sort of became a sort of well-known thing. Like a lot of money is going around in it, and one team took a sports coach, and all other teams followed. So it's like a sort of established thing now. So I know there's spots for that. I know there's spots for sports psychologists. There's analysts in there, and there's like coaches. And I'm just hoping to find something that I fit with. So for now, I'm trying to go with something that already exists and not as much making a new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have a question for you, because you said like you don't really know, like the road is still a bit unclear for you. But do you think like, or do you know other people who have walked this road before maybe, and like could you maybe approach them to ask like, hey, like what you are doing right now seems so interesting. How did you start? How did you get there? What struggles did you come across?
Well, so I found that really hard, but then someone I know like pointed me towards a certain YouTuber sort of personality in the esports scene that I've seen before. And he's basically a coach he's been a coach for multiple teams now, and I never really knew it, but he started by just he made a YouTube channel, and he talked about things in the game, and sort of showed his expertise through that about the topic, and suddenly got like an offer and started off. And so before, like up till a week ago, I didn't actually know anyone that had walked the path. I vaguely had an acquaintance in the UK that got into a team somehow, but no, before that, I really didn't know anyone.
Yeah, is it something that you could see yourself doing as well, like creating your own channel and start there to get your foot a bit between the door?
Yeah, so I've definitely been thinking about that the last couple of weeks, and I've sort of made a little list for myself and thinking, hey, what can I talk about in this game? What do I have like knowledge of? And
that's a good way.
Yeah, taking into account my experience with like this master so far. Drawing on the statistics, I could definitely say something about, hey, this is what works in the game. Like I've seen before that the game I'm interested in is League of Legends, and the developer of this game often posts like statistics on the game, and there's things like, hey, if you take a 5-minute break after every loss, you have like a 10% higher chance of winning, and that's something I could advertise. And also in the game itself, I have some expertise on the gameplay. I'm not sure if I would need that in my future job per se, but that would be a way of at least showing expertise in a way that I could do on YouTube.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I have considered. I think it could be a road. I'm not sure if that road will lead me there, but it's definitely something you might as well do and see if it leads anywhere, I think.
But that's quite interesting, Joost, because you're actually describing what your next step is, basically. So, like, finding someone that is sort of successful in this area, trace back the steps that this person did, and try to combine with your own skills and interests, and then build your road through there.
Yeah, the one thing, if I'm sort of being critical about that, is that is one coach of, say, I don't know how many coaches would work in there, say, like the hundreds of coaches that work in the scene, right? Maybe the thousands of coaches.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe it's also important to look at the other ones, like to see how they got in there. But that is like still very unclear to me. And I'm also not, apart from contacting them and hoping they reply, I'm not sure how to sort of learn more about that road.
Oh, maybe because the information is not out there. You really need to contact them.
There's no like a manual like how to become an esports coach.
Yeah.
Not really, no.
It's quite news, not that new, but it's getting more mainstream, like esports. And like you said, there's no manual how to become an esports coach. But what the reason why we're here today is to use design thinking, right? And you already started out with one solution, right? That you could go after your career path, but maybe we can also ideate different ways to get there. I also know, for instance, that a lot of schools, like I know getting to the main esports scene could be hard at the beginning, but there could be possible steps for you to start out first in terms of contacting people, because I know there are a lot of schools that have teams, esports teams, and they are funded by either the school or some kind of association, and maybe that's easier path, for instance, to contact and see if you have an opportunity to be involved first, and then build the next steps from there, for instance.
Yeah.
And I know in Leeuwarden, I'm not sure if you know the school, NHL Stenden.
I don't actually, but
Yeah, well, University of Applied Sciences in Leeuwarden, and I think I stumbled across one of the esports team they have there, run by students. So maybe this could also be on top of creating your YouTube channel. Maybe you could start reaching out for these type of organizations that are non-profit. How you could start and get your experience from, and then move up later on to the main scene, for instance. Maybe the girls have some other ideas or some inspirational way to tackle or give you some tips.
I think just like not stalk, that's a bit weird, but just like approach as many people as you can who are in the field and ask how they did it. And I think also just with your YouTube channel, just give that a shot. I think that's a good idea. Just combine different things. I think that's the best idea, to just like try as many things out at the same time and then see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like maybe right now you just need more information, right? To actually have a clear vision of what is out there. So maybe just gather more information by sending email to people that you think might be interesting, and or universities and associations, and really try to find as much information as you can. Maybe it's the first step. What do you think?
No, that's actually, it sounds so basic, right? But I do think it's important to that. And about the universities, I remember looking, I think it was 2 years ago, that I looked around at universities and esports teams, and I actually didn't find like a lot in the Netherlands. I know I went abroad to the UK, and over there that was like a way bigger thing. So I'm surprised to hear that actually so close to home there's like a team to get in contact with. That's actually really interesting.
And this is how you usually get more knowledge or information, when you actually go out there and talk with people, engage with them, interview, asking questions, meeting new people. And sometimes you just need a bit of luck to meet the right people. And then, sometimes it's just, serendipity, and that's many people. That's how many people get the job, basically, just to stumble upon right people and get into the scene.
Yeah, but I think for luck you need to create like your own opportunities as well.
Yeah,
very true.
So that's the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah,
specifically for coaching, because I was a coach there in Brazil, and it's really scary and complicated to start your own thing out of nowhere. So I talked to a girl that I really admired, like a role model for me, and I was just lucky that she said, "Why don't you work for me first and see how it goes?" So maybe you can, by talking to so many people and approaching, maybe someone can give you the opportunity just for you to follow that person for a couple of months, so you have this experience.
Honestly, that would be ideal. I think so like I said before, people want you to have experience, obviously, before you start working for a team that's, in the real scene. And so I was thinking the most logical first step would be to look for an internship somewhere, just follow someone around, and they can show you the ropes, and you can just try to, add your knowledge to their knowledge and take from their knowledge. So I agree.
So you think your first step right now would be to find an internship?
I mean,
because that's like
that's
a big step.
It is a big step.
What's like your first step you think that you could do, and like when would it be successful for you?
Exactly.
So I mean, I think that would be I guess maybe not the end goal. Maybe is getting a job, but like an internship is close to the end goal. So the first steps are, I guess, as we sort of said, find more information and contact people, and just see what's out there. Just start fishing, actually. Put a lot of rods out there, and then
okay, so let's put it concrete. Okay, so from today to next week, let's say Friday, what would be like your actions that you will be taking?
I guess in steps. First step would be, well, I guess there's two things. So the YouTube channel is one thing, and the other one is gathering information. And I guess the third would be contacting people. So YouTube channel is easy steps. I could just look, hey, what can I talk about? Like get a concrete list down of the things I could, or which I have expertise in. When it comes to getting information, I guess one thing that interests me, what we have said so far, is the universities. So I think I'm going to look around in the Netherlands first, here in Groningen, to see, hey, are there esports teams? Are there places I could try to get experience in?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to contacting people, I think I'll just look at like the websites of organizations that I know and see who the coach, like if they have like any ways of contacting them.
Yeah.
And I think Twitter is also a good one because I know like those people
Use
there
a
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe LinkedIn as well, because there
Yeah.
you can also see, like, if you just, I think if you search for esports and then persons, you can just like maybe find some people and then you can just send them a message, just
Yeah.
try it
Yeah.
out.
No, that's definitely, I think those are the things I can do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's nice. Then what about you, Thirza? Let's move into you. Let's move to you and your design question.
Yeah, so for me right now, I'm just a bit lost. I don't really know. Like, I feel like I like quite a lot of things, but I don't really know how to combine everything. So recently I spoke to someone from my old school because I would maybe like to like give trainings for students on like motivation and how to study, and that's something that has been on my mind for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I already took like a little step there because I've got an appointment with the school soon. So for me right now, it's more like finding the confidence to build something up, because I don't know, sometimes I just have like these moments where I feel like really bold and then I try it and then like a week later I just think like, oh, what have I done? Like then I just get really scared of it. So yeah, I think for me it's important to also, I think, find my strengths and see how I can use them to my advantage. And yeah, I think by trial and error, figure out what I most enjoy.
Yeah, but what was interesting for me is that you said you've been thinking about this for a long time, and it took you some time before you actually took some actions. And why was that actually?
Because maybe there's just like this little voice in the back of your mind, like it's probably like too big of a shot, or like it's like I think I also didn't like divide it into smaller steps, so it seemed like really daunting, just like I want to maybe give workshops at a school, and it seems so far away. So I think for me it was so important to just look, okay, but what is the first like baby step that I can do? And I think that really helped me. So if other people experience this as well, if you have like a really big thing, just think about like, okay, what is like the smallest thing I can do right now? And then I think, that's mostly what holds me back quite a lot of the time. I just think about something and I feel like it's way too big, and then just like it's like one big elephant and you cannot eat it like in one bite, so you have to chop it up.
That totally makes sense. So right now you're at the point that you need to start creating a workshop because you obviously have an appointment. So how would you start?
Yeah, so I have the appointment on Thursday. So for me, starting usually works with like a mind map, because then I can just sort out all my ideas. But I feel like for me also, just like talking to the person I have an appointment with is probably going to give me a lot of inspiration, because I also really would like to talk to the students and the teachers at the school to find out what they really need, so we can really create something that is valuable to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's really important, like knowing your end users. And that's how we usually work as well, is to find out information about end users, because in the end you don't design the workshop for yourself, right? You design it for the end users, and you try to make things useful and create something of value to the end users. And it's great that you took initiative already to contact and find more information about the end users. But in meanwhile, are there things that you could do to prepare for the workshops already, like creating a prototype or?
Yeah, because I think that's still quite difficult to create like a prototype without really knowing what information or what skills the students would like to learn, I think. So I think a good step would maybe be to just to ask a lot of people like within that age group, like, hey, what is something that you struggle with, and just get as much information I can possibly get.
I think it's actually really interesting that because sort of what you are struggling with now, I could imagine that's what people struggle with, at the end, towards the end of their middle school. Like you're talking about sort of motivation and like finding a thing to do, and that's kind of the sort of thing that you're struggling with right now. So I could imagine that when you're trying to set up maybe your prototypes, you could make it about sort of exactly what we're
Your
doing
own
now.
struggles.
Because I do think they would apply. And since you're sort of an expert on your own struggles,
Yeah.
I think you could really use that to set up, maybe make your prototype. I think that would be amazing if you could do that.
Yeah, just think about things like, oh, this information would have helped me a lot
Yeah.
back then. Because I feel like a lot of people, like if you look back to your secondary school experience, you think like, oh, if only I knew this, or if only I
Exactly.
knew how to
Yeah,
make a
exactly.
good planning, or if only I knew how to motivate myself, then some things would be a lot easier.
Because I don't think like in the span of 10, 15 years, the school system has not changed that much, correct? So I think
Mm.
what you would have needed back then is probably still something that these students could need right now, or in the next few years of their, education.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. I think there's like a opportunity for it, so that's nice.
But it's really cool already that you think it this way, that you need to really ask questions and then you would structure the prototype and start creating something. So it's really cool and nice to see that you actually took initiative, even though it took some time, right? But it's really great.
Yeah, I think that
It was interesting. No, I was still like putting things together here, because I can feel that you have a lot of questions inside your head, like really asking yourself a lot of things. And I thought it was interesting because I saw two main groups of questions that you have regarding this. And please correct me if I'm wrong. So there is one group asking yourself, like, what do I want from the future, my career? Like, do I want to
Yeah.
follow this path? And at the same time, there is this group saying, am I good enough, or who am I?
yeah, that last bit is definitely true. Because like, even though I already have like a bachelor's degree and almost a master's degree, sometimes I still feel like, but who am I to say these things or to do? Yeah, I think it's also because like during my bachelor's or my master's, I never had like an internship, or like I did some side jobs, but like I think it would be so much better if you just like have that experience, because then you build more confidence. So right now I'm just like, okay, I'm also just trying to figure out what I'm doing. Yeah.
And which one do you think goes first?
Ooh.
Oh my God, the psychologist.
You got it
I
there.
think maybe the finding more confidence is more important, because I feel like that's like more deeply rooted than the other thing.
And how can you develop that?
Yeah, that's, I think, just trial and error, basically. Just go to the school, try something out, just get more experience with it. I feel like that's helped me in the past, like, trying out things that are pretty scary for you, and then looking back, you think, oh, it wasn't that much of a deal.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like usually, like great things are on the other side of the fear, and sometimes our head and our minds are making things harder than they are, bigger than they are, scarier than they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to tune out and probably shut down some of the noises and just go for it. Like in this case, you just said to yourself, okay, I'm gonna start contacting. I'm starting to get into meeting these people in the school, and then do your workshop later. But why do you choose this path to actually go and create workshops?
Because I've worked like with secondary school students in the past, and I just think it's a really interesting age group, because like at that stage of your life, sometimes, at least in my experience, you feel a bit lost, and I would just like love to help people. I think that's basically what I like to do. I just like to help people, and just if I can put a smile on someone's face, and if they say like, oh, this was really this really helped me move forward, then I just like feel really happy about myself as well. So
Yeah, but what I see from listening to Joost and Thirza right now is that they both have some things that are in common. When they look at the things that they want to do with the career, is really connected into their personality and the core values that they have, and I think that's already a huge start to begin with, just to know your core values, what you like, what you don't like, and connect that to your career path. I think that could be helpful for the others to also start with if they don't know exactly where they want to go or what kind of career to have, is just to maybe sit down and ask questions to themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's what you probably spend some time doing as well.
Yeah,
if I'm correct.
Yeah, also finding out what you wouldn't like, or like, yeah, because for example, I wouldn't like a job where you would just like be behind a computer screen all day. Like I really need interaction with people and cooperating, working together on projects, having like creative freedom, just like not being tied to too many like rules and yeah.
But let's go back to the thing that Ligia mentioned about your confidence, like to talk about the next steps or the action plans, how you could boost your confidence, for instance, before you actually go into meetings and have discussions and create your workshop. Are there ways that Thirza could, or things that Thirza could already do before having that conversation and that next step of starting to build the workshop?
I mean, obviously, when you have the prototype ready, you could always try it with people you know. I mean, just have them give their honest opinion. I mean, if they give you bad feedback, you change it until they give you good feedback. And I think sort of with that in the back of your head, that could be a good confidence boost.
And I think one thing that you said, it was really interesting, that maybe the end users not necessarily will know how to explain what they need. And if you put your personality there, it's you, and you might be more comfortable like talking about yourself and your things. And I thought it was so nice that once you were describing, like, I like to help people, we could see your eyes shining. Like you're talking with your heart. And I think once you do that, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks. Like that's kind of the boost that I needed. Yeah. So I think for me, it also helps like to kind of set a goal for like, what do I want to get out of it? And like for next meeting, I just want to, I just want to go in it quite open and just brainstorm and ask like I really want to do this, but before I start making something, I really want to go to the root of the problem first and say like, okay, what is missing here?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, because I was already thinking, I can already maybe start some things, and then I thought, no, first find out like what is, because like I did my bachelor in educational sciences, and then like before we had to like create something, we always had to do like a needs analysis, like what do the people need here and what is the learning problem, that kind of stuff. So
this is something so nice that we saw in Joost. We see Thirza here, that if the listener has something, that a topic that you really talk with your eyes shining, that you could wake up 6 a.m. on Saturday to do it, maybe that's a good path. And we see the same pattern here with both of them.
I was going to say,
definitely.
When I remember, I think it was a year ago, and like in one of the classes in my bachelor, it was like mandatory to discuss what you wanted to do after bachelor, right? Yeah. And so you were put in pairs and you had to talk about your options. And I had like this option of, hey, maybe I'll become a clinical psychologist. And the other one was the esports one. And I didn't know much about it, but I was like, the idea is nice. And I remember the person I was paired with, she said to me that I should really look at how differently I talk about both of them. With one, I was just sort of explaining it, clinical psychologist, you're helping people, that's nice. And with the esports one, I was just so enthusiastic, and
you had passion,
and that's something that it's so important. Sometimes you don't recognize it with yourself, right? But it's so important. It's so telling for what would interest you and what, for your motivation.
Take some notes, guys. So what would be, like, Thirza, your action plan from today to next week? Let's say, what would like be the steps that you would be taking?
Oh, I think that's a good question, because I do have the meeting on Thursday, so maybe after the meeting, like really reflect on how it was and what went well, and maybe what I can improve, and also in that way kind of find out like what my strengths are and maybe boost my confidence in that way. Maybe also ask the person for direct feedback, or if there's anything I can do better. I don't know. I find it difficult.
I was kind of wondering, so how do you feel about going into that meeting right now? Are you confident in your ability to sort of sell yourself and sell your project?
Oh, maybe not selling myself. I guess I find that a bit difficult. I don't know. I just don't want to come across as arrogant or anything.
Well, it's first of all, it's about your own attitude, and it can reflect. So if basically you think you are arrogant, and it can reflect, and the others can feel that too. But if you feel normal when you talk, I think that can also give the same vibe. And maybe like going back to what Joost said, maybe you can do something already before you have the meeting. And my challenge could be for you, like maybe you want to take this challenge, maybe you don't, but I leave it up to you.
Okay.
Like to build your confidence, maybe it's just like going to talk with 5 different strangers that you don't know anything about, and start a conversation. To if you can do that, I'm pretty sure you are able to build up your confidence. Even like one person, one stranger you haven't talked with before or haven't met, you can set up this goal for every
That's
day.
a good
Like,
challenge.
yeah, like
Oh.
I meet one person every day. I'm just going to talk about myself and introduce myself, and then asking questions. And maybe that's how you could learn asking questions when you have the meeting as well. So I actually leave it up to you whether this could be an idea that you could do to improve or boost your confidence.
Oh,
I think it's a great
big
idea.
step.
It is.
You can go in
Yeah.
the train if you
Yeah,
have
I
like
do
a
have a
stint
train journey today, but
Oh,
it's-
there you
See?
go. It's like a 4-seater.
Yeah.
You sit in front of someone and you have a little chat.
it's just so weird that that's kind of scary because it's just like talking to someone, but for some reason that just
Yeah, right now what we talked about is that you are building a fear out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, but if I get like if I know people like a little bit, then I don't really mind approaching them. But then in a train or like on the street, I just feel like that's just such a weird.
Then maybe you
But
could
then
scale back a bit, and maybe talk to those people that you only know a bit and you haven't been talking with them in a long time. Catching up could be also a way to get there.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah,
doable.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, if you were like, sort of maybe end goal would be, going into the train, being, hey, I'm trying to, I have like a appointment with someone tomorrow. I'm trying to pitch this idea to them. Can I practice with you? Honestly, I think you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to help you with that.
See, there's always opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and one last thing I think is important. It's really important to prepare for a meeting. So at least have 1 or 2 or 3 topics that you want to leave the meeting knowing about. So I want to leave the meeting with this, and that information.
Yeah, and having said
Yeah.
certain things that you want to make sure
Yeah.
are said.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna practice like what I want to say. Maybe first like with a friend or like family member, and then
Yeah, if you want, you can practice. with
Yeah,
me
why
after.
not?
yeah,
Yeah, if you're
I can
more
do that.
comfortable with it, you can start there, and
Yeah.
then
yeah, because then
Baby
I feel
steps.
like
baby steps, like you said.
practicing it with someone first. I
Yeah.
think that's a good step to also be more prepared. Because right now I don't really. Yeah, I'm sometimes also a bit like scared to take a lot of initiative because then I feel like, oh, are my ideas good enough, or like what do they expect from me? Yeah. So I think it's important to prepare myself.
Yeah,
very
so
well.
start small, like you said in the
Yes.
beginning.
Yeah.
Not eating a big elephant, but
Just a
taking-
tiny bit of it.
And don't forget, you already did start
exactly.
your process.
That's already
Yeah,
important.
that's true, and that was also quite scary for me. Like I was with a friend, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna send it now. I'm gonna press send, and then like a few seconds later, I got a response, and then we just like had a little dance party.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Nice.
So how about you, Ligia? Your design question, or
What about me? Yeah. So it's really weird to coming to another country, because well, especially for me, like I'm 30 years old already. So like I had my whole life there in Brazil. I knew people. I was someone.
You're still someone
can
to
relate
us.
too.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've never looked for a job in Brazil because your uncle knows a neighbor that knows someone that is needing or like
Yeah.
you have this network done and you have your personality fixed. I don't know, because when you move to another country, everything changes. Even your personality changes a little bit. So I'm still finding myself here and
Okay.
building my professional personality here, because I had one there and I had the feeling that here is a little bit different, especially because I want stability here. I had my own coaching office there, and I don't feel that I want to open my company here and be my own boss or something. I want stability and knowing my salary and knowing that I can stay here, like feel this comfort.
Yeah, security, I guess.
Yeah.
Security, yes.
But why is the big change from being entrepreneur in Brazil and coming here? Then you suddenly want to have stability.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I don't know if you guys already had that. When you go to another country, you really things change. The whole perspective changed, and I just had this feeling of having what was the word you used?
Security.
Security. Yeah. The security, like really feeling
safety as
safe
well.
here, and I just had this feeling because. As I said, like in Brazil, I knew so many people, and if I needed something, I knew who to contact and who to ask for that thing. And here is just like, I don't know where to look for and things like that, you know?
Oh, so basically in Brazil, you kind of felt like you had this safety network, but
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
moved here, then you want to start building that safety network again, but in
Exactly.
a different way.
Yeah. So maybe, who knows, in the future I might open again my own company, because once an entrepreneur is really hard to leave this tattoo. But I don't know, right now I really would like to find a job, like really having a time that I enter and leave the company, like really safety and security.
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
Very
and
Dutch, very structured, and
very structured. Yeah.
I do think it's really
Precies.
interesting how those two are like tied together. You should have named them separately, but yeah, like this. So you had your secure social network, and then sort of that's gone, and now you're looking for it here, but in a sort of different way. Or
Yeah, it's just that, I don't know, I had this feeling, I don't know if people have that as well. When you enter in a company, it's just like you enter in a room and all the seats are taken and you just say hi. Like you enter in a party that is already happening, and you have to still find your spot, and it's
Right.
not there. So we feel a little bit, insecure and kind of weird. So I would love like this is your seat, this is your place, this is your thing. So, you asked my question. So how do I build that? How do I put myself in this new country, new city, new language, new everything?
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think? Like,
Yeah.
2 days ago, I found out that LinkedIn has a standard language. So, like I put Portuguese there, and you can put your profile in many different languages. But the first one that will appear is a standard one. So if a recruiter is looking for me, first it will appear my Portuguese profile.
oh,
I need to change that
Yeah.
because like people will look at my profile and they won't understand anything. So I really need to this is probably one of the things, because I guess here in the Netherlands LinkedIn is something really important. So I need to change to English to become more international.
Yeah. So if that becomes a problem, you can probably always create a new account, but an English one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to you wanting a stability and a job here, what would it look like right now in your mind?
Nice. That's a good one. Well, I would like to mix the best of the two worlds. So when I had my own company, I was a coach and a trainer. So if I could be a coach and a trainer inside a company, that would be perfect. So really developing, designing trainings and giving trainings to the employees, or a consultant's company. Something like that, like people needing something and I could help either individuals or groups.
Yeah.
and what kind of company would you see yourself working at? Like, because I think like being a coach or trainer would look very differently at like different companies. Like, what kind of
That's a good point.
values in a like are you looking for in a company? What do you think that would suit you?
That's a good one. Well, I really like creativity. That's
obvious.
Yeah, obviously, I really like creativity. So I think probably a company that is kind of young and modern and creative and open to different ideas, that would be more ideal for me, probably. Not a very rigid one.
No, and it was like a lot of old people working there, just doing
Closed-minded.
everything the same way all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And do you already have like an idea of what companies there are like that in the Netherlands? Have you already brainstormed that, or is that something you
Yeah,
still can
so
do?
far I'm receiving a lot of no's.
Oh,
Nice.
but so I saw Johnson and Johnson, and I thought a fantastic like trainer. I came across like 9 years of experience,
9.
like junior assistant.
And then you need 9
That,
years.
that,
For a
that,
junior-
does it really discourage you when you see that?
It does, but I applied for it anyway,
Yeah,
right?
good.
But so this I saw Philips are also here, and might be something. I think IBM is also interesting. So I saw some big companies that might be interesting for me. But still, they want this experience that is so difficult to tackle.
Yeah.
But they don't have it.
What's actually interesting for me that you listed some big companies, right?
Yeah.
Why is that?
This is the thing about the network, right? It's easier to find a spot on a big company that published on LinkedIn or whatever than a small one. Where can I find the small ones? The
Where can
startups
you?
and things. What?
Where can you? Maybe you have an idea yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a question for you. Like, where can I find like small companies that could need your help?
Because it maybe would be even easier, right, to go there
Mhm.
instead of just sending an email in the sea of a lot of CVs, and mine is there in the middle.
Actually, I think it was you that just said to me before. I can't remember who it was, but are you trying to invent your own job or looking for one that people are looking for? Because I think for the big companies, they are like, hey, we need this, but the smaller ones maybe don't know exactly what they're looking for. And you could go there and be like, hey, I can offer this. I think your company could use this, maybe.
And then you have your creative freedom as well that you really value.
and you make your own job. So that's a sort of more. I didn't phrase it as a question as much, but that's a question towards you. So what are you looking for more, or are you open to both?
So what you're saying is that I could do more or less what Thirza is doing, but in companies, is startups or small companies, like setting
Yeah,
up a
why
meeting
not?
and
Or
Yeah.
why not?
But what's more interesting to me to find out, okay, what have you, like, how did you start this process of finding companies?
how did I start it?
Yeah, how did you start finding companies? And how did you go about it? Your approach?
Yeah, this is interesting because I'm kind of social kind
Mhm.
of person. So once I arrived here in Groningen, I started making friends.
Yep.
And I often really spread the word. If I need something, if I'm looking for something, I really talk to everyone. So everyone that knows me knows that I'm looking for a job right now.
Okay.
So basically, I don't have to look that much because people just send me through WhatsApp. Oh, I found this.
Take notes
Yeah.
again.
Want to hire someone?
That's a really good tip, like contacting the people that you know. Yeah, serendipity, you never know, right?
Yeah, I've always done this, and that's why for me in Brazil it was so much easier because I could just send it to 100 people, and at least one person would have this great idea or this great job.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm doing here right now, but still my circle is kind of small.
Right. So you haven't actually by yourself been like, hey, I'm gonna look for a job. It's okay.
Not that much, no.
Okay. That's fine.
No. Because this is my struggle. When you're looking for a job, a lot of people are looking for the job as well. And I see this because I was a recruiter as well. Like I did a small internship once. And like I used to receive 50 CVs per day. We don't look at all of them, you know? So I don't want to be 1 out of 50 per day being like in the middle of a list. And if someone shows me one opportunity or even indicate me like, oh, this is Ligia, it would be an easier path.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know
so
what I mean?
so what stood out for me that you said you don't want to be one of the 50, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever number that recruiters are actually looking
Dealing
or have the quota what they need to read per day. But then on the other hand, some other people could think like, okay, how could I stand out from those 25 people and create something that will be seen by these recruiters?
Yeah.
And often those people actually land a job quite weirdly because they actually find a way to stand out. So there could be many ways to approach this. You could do the way that you are doing right now to say like, okay, I don't want to go to compete with them because I know the process. But on the other hand, you could adopt this way. Okay, I know how it's done. Maybe I also know how I could, be different from others and find a way to be in front of the recruiters, right? Because you have the knowledge. You have the knowledge which things they're looking at.
Yeah.
So basically, in that sense, you already have some sort of advantage, and you could basically use that to get in front of the recruiters. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you could land a job.
So what, when you were recruiting, even if it was for a short period of time, what were you looking for? Because you said you don't look at all of the 50 CVs you get. What were you looking for?
Basically, in the end, what happens is someone recommends one specific person, and this is the special one that we look for.
Right,
We
so
look at.
just ignore the 49 and you look at the one because it got recommended.
Because when you receive a CV, you just have this check. So it has to be fluent in that kind of language, and it has to have that many experience. And then we just look for that, and we just delete the rest of it. Even if the person is amazing, but if the person doesn't have that specific check thing, we just forget about it. So that's really unfair or complicated, but it's just too many people, and we need to filter somehow. Yeah. But what happens is, if someone that we really trust talks about someone that they really trust, they say, oh, let's take a really good look at that specific person. You know what I mean?
You need to find people who can recommend you, maybe.
Recommend, but I thought it was interesting, this part of not only super big companies, but really figuring out what's happening here in Groningen, what kind of companies.
Because there could be like smaller companies that could need your expertise or your help, and maybe that's how you can get your repertoire while you're starting to build your new network here in the Netherlands.
Absolutely, and not necessarily they're posting this specific job.
Exactly.
Okay. Maybe because you said you want like a more secure thing here, right? So maybe that won't directly be like, hey, this is my secure job that I will have for, say, 30 years. I'm just saying something. But it could be helping towards your work experience, the years of experience that everybody seems to need. 9 years for the junior position of the junior. But it could just help towards that. It could just be a step in the process.
Absolutely. I think that for internationals, we just need one shot. Give me one opportunity, and then I'll show how I am, and maybe you're going to like it, and maybe we can build a thing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking what could also help is like whenever you see like a vacancy and it says like, oh, you need 9 years of experience, you can also maybe ask like the people who you hire, where did they start? Like, how did they get to this job? And then you can see like, oh, maybe they started at this company or at that company. You can find out kind of like how they approached it and kind of not really copy, but get some inspiration from their steps.
Yeah, and usually I feel like it's just a guideline. It's just easier to check if you like, let's say for instance 9 years of experience, but that's not always the case, right? If they have recommendations that this person doesn't have 9 years of experience but is really good with the things that they're doing, or have some kind of credentials already that can actually compensate on the lack of work experience, and they actually get the job. And I have personally been one of those persons that don't have the required experience but still got the job, because you have something else to compensate. And what's important for the listeners is that those are just the guidelines. You can always use your strengths and bring them out, and maybe they will invite you to interviews, and maybe you are able to show them that you are the right person to the job, even though you lack the required working experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my homework
Your
for this week
homework.
would be first, really try to scan Groningen and understand what's happening here. Are there startups in Groningen that I could contact? And also trying to strengthen my network.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are concrete steps you could take towards that? Towards finding companies in Groningen and towards your network, I guess?
Yeah, how would you start?
And remember, baby steps.
Baby steps. I have Google. This is what's crossing my mind.
Everybody's best friend.
But maybe LinkedIn is probably even better because it's easier to go like for things like that. I would, but I would Google as much as I can, like really trying to. Maybe I could even use Google Maps and put on companies and see what shows there.
Who knows, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think also LinkedIn is a good idea because you can also like filter on like city where you can find it,
Mm-hmm.
and then like experience and stuff.
And I can even choose in a specific feud and then go and see what kind of companies in this feud are there.
There are also groups that provide first information on the vacancies. So, for instance, if some local businesses, they don't have, let's say, an online presence, right? So they don't have a proper website or a job posting, which could cost them money to put it on insiders and what indoor and the class door and this sort of channels.
Yeah.
So some of the times they post on LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups.
Mhm.
So maybe those could be also interesting to look at
Okay.
in the area of Groningen.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there will be groups out there already. It's just the trick is to find them, I guess, and just keep an eye out on them.
Yeah, so I think my baby steps would be just be curious in front of the computer.
Spend some time.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the network, because that was also one, right? How are you gonna approach that to
And
like strengthen it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Maybe, well, sometimes we have friends and we're just hanging with them, but actually understand what do they do, what's their work, and where do they work for, and maybe that's also a good thing.
Yeah, maybe they happen to work for a company that might be, in the need of someone.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
it could
Yeah.
sometimes it could be about luck and timing. Like during these times, maybe a job, a position is open in some companies right now.
Yeah,
You never know.
I'll definitely do that.
So yeah, guys, this was the first episode of the work experience. We hope that you got some ideas how we go about it, how we ask questions, how we ideate together, and how we think about how to create prototypes or taking actions toward creating own work experience. And next week we're gonna have the second episode and come back to see whether these people
We did our homework.
did their homework and took the necessary steps that they laid out for themselves, and then we will continue on that. Thank you for joining and listening, and join our LinkedIn community, the Agents Academy, and follow us on Instagram, the Agents Academy as well, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you guys
See
for
you.
watching.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.